Welcome back to the SERA ECR podcast. So this ECR podcast, we're featuring ECR stories, and today we have Ashley with us. Hi, Ashley. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, thanks Hermione for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity just to talk about Sarah and my experiences. Do you want me to share a little bit about myself?
Yes.
Okay. So I am currently a PGR. I'm in my second year of my PhD in education, but I'm an international student. So I am originally from Phoenix, Arizona, the desert of the United States, the exact opposite climate of here in Scotland. Lots of sun and not a lot of rain. Um, I'm also a mom. I've got two wonderful kids that are here with me. And so I've been studying alongside, learning about a new life in a new country. And it's all been very exciting and sometimes stressful, but a great experience so far.
Thank you, Ashley. I would like to ask you a starter question. So this is the time and the space travel question. If you open the next door you see and it will take you anywhere, where would you like to go?
So I think this is a tough one because if you could go anywhere in time as well, but I've always really wanted to go to New Zealand and Australia, but flying on planes, especially for a long amount of time, is not my idea of fun. So if I could just open a door and walk through it and be in New Zealand, that would be amazing, and I would love that. And then open the door and be able to come back home. But
I think New Zealanders need to work on this accessibility.
yes.
so, so we're here today because of the Scottish Education Research Association is going to have its 50th anniversary, and you've been involved with SERA a little bit, not very long, since you've only been here for 2 years. So I would like to ask you, what are your most memorable story or stories that you had with SERA or SERA people?
So I remember when I was first introduced to SERA, I kind of joined just because it was a good network, a good support system. And then we I joined the reading club that you were doing with the SERA ECR network, and the walk and talk event that we did in December with Dr. Deli Elliott was, I think, a really memorable experience because not only it was just very organic. We got to meet up in Glasgow in this beautiful museum, um, but we also got to meet with international PGRs from other universities around Scotland. And I think for me, it really opened my eyes as to the importance of a community for PGRs. And it really made me feel like maybe I'm not so isolated. Maybe the things that I go through as an international student, it's not just me. There's other
Just
people
me,
out
what you
there.
see.
Yeah, there's other people out there that have perspectives and advice that they can offer. And it was a really good experience just to meet all these other people and hear their stories and hear what the experience has been like for them as well. And it um, kind of sparked a little fire in me to want to try and spread that community and that engagement, because I think it's really, really valuable.
And I would say you actually took action on this, right? That's where we had this year from a SERA ECR Reading Club. We collaborated with Faculty of Social Sciences with the PGR cohort here that you advocated for more people to get involved with it because the reading we choose was actually writing for academic journals. That was one of the books that Deli told us when we were having this event, preparing for it. Yes. So I
Yes,
see this
yes.
kind of like grows a little bit more and more. And
Yes, yes. I think being the PGR faculty officer at Stirling has been a really good opportunity, but being able to collaborate with the SERA ECR network just amplifies those opportunities, and it also opens them up to other PGRs beyond Stirling as well. So it really builds that community and makes it bigger, and that's something I've really enjoyed.
Yes, I always remember that Dali told us academic writing is like conversation. It's a conversation to continue the existing conversation, to say you have something new to say. That's a piece of like why people publish on journal articles. And so the next question for the SERA 50 question is, what would be different if you have not engaged with SERA?
I think for me, what would have been different is that I would have stayed in my little bubble.
Mm,
I would have stayed in my comfort zone. I probably would not have reached out as much as I have now. I think um, being involved in the SERA ECR network and also branching out to the Health and Wellbeing Research and
mm,
Education Network,
yeah, they
it's
have to
opened,
collecting data, right? They have to
yeah,
recruit participants in all of
yes,
this. They're very heartwarming, yeah.
yeah, they've opened all of these doors and, made when I first came into doing research, I felt like I just don't know if you have that imposter phenomenon
Mm,
going on in your head. Like, I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I'm good enough, if I, am worthy of this. But
good enough. We are worthy of
yeah,
this.
yeah, thank you. But I think being involved in the SERA ECR network has really given me a little bit more confidence to be
Mhm.
able to, work on more events and work on reaching out to more people. So had I not joined, been, I probably would have stayed quite isolated and on my own.
Yeah. I also think it's similarly for me, like if there had not been SERA ECR networks, I would not know people like me around different universities, and I'm not alone. So it's kind of like you said, you no longer feel yourself is isolated. The only person you could contact is supervisors. No, they're not the last straws. Like they're not the only straw, and that there are loads of straws, and people don't kind of see it like that. It's collaborate, all of these things. I really enjoyed. That's kind of like what is going on. That's why it keeps me going with this podcast. And the next question is, what are your top three words to SERA, which is celebrating its 50th anniversary? Top three words.
So I think SERA is this, and I would hope that they continue to be a community, an
Mhm.
excellent community, supportive, and welcoming.
Welcoming, supportive community.
Yes.
That's what you see, SERA is, and hope it will contain. It will.
Yes.
It will continue.
Yeah.
Yes. And would you like to say a little bit about the faculty officer role that you've been taking up on? What it is and what you do with it? What have you done? I know for personal contact that you have done something with writing techniques and you've been advocating for reading club. But what is this role? Could you say a little bit more about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So this role is on behalf of the Students' Union at University of Stirling, and I kind of am someone that the PGRs can go to offer feedback, whether that's on more logistical areas like modules or um, processes, things like that. But I'm also someone that they can come to if they uh, don't know what to do about supervisory relationships or
Mm,
um, maybe they've got other struggles, then they don't quite know where to find the resources to
yeah.
help them knock those barriers down. And then within this role, I've also been able to join some committees. So the EDI committee at Stirling, the Equality, Diversity, and Inclusion committee, is one that I sit on. And I think that's quite an important committee because we're able to focus on the PGRs as people
Mm-hmm.
rather than just as students. So, you can really focus on all of those different characteristics, whether PGRs are part-time or have caring responsibilities, or young children, or disabilities, or are part of minority groups. That's kind of the space where we can really think about how to engage everyone and how to engage the whole PGR as a person,
Mm.
um, which I think is really important.
Thank you. I'm really happy that you take up this role, and I can see for myself, seeing how this faculty, we're having more things, we're having more connections with staff, and I can see more and more staff stand up and say, like, we see our PGRs as young colleagues instead of like just as students, because it is very important to have this scholarship being recognized. And I really appreciate that you've been taking up this role, because I know
Thank you.
before you, the previous one didn't do anything. And but that's another story. Glad you're here. And so for this podcast, I always try to build connections with time and space and different people. Yes, want you to answer one of the questions from previous interviewees. You'll be
Sure.
able to take a look at all of them, and you like Annabeth's question. How do you manage to balance the academic roles with life?
Yes, I loved that question because I feel like this is actually something we talked about a little bit in
Mm-hmm.
our event with Delhi. And, I feel like all of us as people, we wear different hats. We have different things going on.
Mm,
And so right now, my research is one of the most important things that I'm working on, but I'm also a parent and I'm a partner and I have a family.
mm,
And I'm an international student, so there's also, all these other components to
yeah,
it. And sometimes it's difficult. It's, I think, doing full-time research takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of dedication. Um, and it's hard when you have these distractions around you. But what really helps me is actually the fact that I have these little people watching me, and that I can show them, sometimes things are hard.
yeah,
Moving to a new country is hard, and
yeah,
taking on a new program like this it can be hard. And there might be times where you think, "Oh, this isn't for me. I can't do it." But when you get to that point, I think pushing through and motivating yourself and sticking with it is when you really start to see those results. And I want my kids to grow up
yeah,
being able to overcome the things that are put in front of them,
mm,
and to see that if you really want to do something, you can do it. It takes
yeah,
hard work, but if you stick with it, you can do it. And so I
yeah,
hope that I set that example for them. And that
yeah.
keeps me motivated to set time for myself and stay on track.
Yes. And I really appreciate that you're talking about this. And I remember that we have this when you have me moving, and we're talking about this. Like, it's not easy, but it's possible. You want to do it, and you find all the resources available. You try to achieve, try to take the initiative to make it happen. And thank you so much for
Yeah.
joining us today briefly for the SERA ECR, for the SERA ECR podcast for the SERA 50, and I hope we will see you again.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Oh, forgot that. Do you have a question, or shall I leave that next time when you have thoughts? Do you have
I
a
can't
question for the
think.
next interviewee?
Mm. I think a good question would be
Hmm.
how you how do you motivate yourself when you get to those points of, those lows on the roller coaster, when you feel like, oh, this is just too hard? What are the things that you do for yourself to get yourself back into the mindset to keep going? I think that's important because you do see a lot of PGRs that don't continue. They stop
Hmm.
their studies. So
Yeah.
I'd be curious to know what people do to keep themselves going.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Ask future interviewees this question, and maybe come back to you later next time,
Oh, yes.
next year. Thank you.
You're welcome.